Hi, I'm Autistic Nana, and today I want to talk about low self-esteem. There are well-documented links between autism and low self-esteem, although low self-esteem isn't inherently a part of autism. It's just the result of living with autism or as an autistic person in a world that isn't designed for us. Our external experiences, the social environment, how our autistic traits are received by others and responded to by others. These are all the key factors in creating self-esteem in autistic people. The first connection between autism and low self-esteem is social rejection and bullying. Autistic individuals, especially children, are far more likely to experience bullying. Difficulties interpreting social cues or fitting into your peer groups can lead to a social exclusion. Repeated negative social experiences can reinforce the feeling that you're wrong or you're less than everybody else somehow. And this creates this feeling of self-worth that is really low. You just feel like you're not good enough. You're not like everybody else. And that rejection from your peers, especially at a young age, is a really significant impactor. The second key connection is masking and camouflaging. If you think about this, an autistic person learns to mask their true and perceived traits. So internally, you already know that you're not good enough as you are, and you need to change how you come across to other people. You need to change what you do, perhaps what you wear, perhaps what you think. You have to change your whole persona just to try and fit in. And obviously, if you're camouflaging to that extent, if you're masking and not being yourself, this just reinforces the fact that your true self is not good enough and you need to be someone else to be accepted. This leads on to key connection number 3, which is negative feedback and criticism. If you spend your life being told that you're hypersensitive, or you're being dramatic, or that you're being rude because of your direct speaking, all these things can also lead you to thinking that you're being criticised, people are misunderstanding you, it makes you feel like a failure, you feel inadequate, and again, this just leads to a feeling that you're defective in some way, and clearly that's going to give you low self-esteem. Apologies, I got distracted by a mosquito that I know is going to come back and bite me later on. Apologies. Number 4, our key connection number 4, late diagnosis and misunderstanding. Many autistic people, especially if you are not white or male, get diagnosed later in life or are misdiagnosed with something else. Without the framework of autism, individuals can grow up simply thinking that they're broken or lazy or defective in some way. So a lack of self-understanding can stop self-compassion from developing. And this is very true for me. I've never felt good enough and never appreciated anything about myself. I've always hated myself and have no self-compassion. So yeah, I think that my late diagnosis, looking at it now, I can see that autism obviously was always there and I had no idea, and I couldn't understand myself and the way others treated me because of that. Okay, key connection number 5 is co-occurring mental health conditions. Autism, good start. Autism often coexists with anxiety, depression, OCD, and ADHD. All of these things can further affect self-esteem. And as I know from looking into the co-occurrence of autism and ADHD, which is up to 83%, you're quite likely to have ADHD, even if you haven't been diagnosed with it as an autistic person. So yeah, they will increase the feeling of overwhelm, failure, and they will especially impact you in environments that aren't tailored to suit neurodiverse brains and neurodiverse needs. Key connection number 6, struggles with identity and belonging. Autistic people may feel like they don't belong in either a neurotypical world or with other autistic people sometimes, funnily enough. As they say, you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. I think autistic people can be just as diverse as an autistic person compared to a neurotypical person can be diverse. So, yeah, the feeling that you're not like anybody else sometimes can just make you feel like you don't belong anywhere, really. So there's a continued feeling of alienation. You just feel like you don't belong. And that will indeed contribute to a feeling of low self-esteem and low self-worth. So, yep. Number 7, key connection number 7 is achievement gaps versus potential. So autistic people often face barriers in education, employment, and achieving independence. And it's not a lack of ability, it is often a lack of accommodations. So I had the intelligence to go to university, but even though I didn't know I was autistic, I knew I wouldn't be able to cope with the whole being at university. So I didn't even attempt to go to university. And later on in life, I did a degree through the Open University, which is obviously at my home. And even then, I didn't feel like my degree was worth what other people's degrees was worth. So I've got such an instilled sense of low self-esteem that my degree doesn't even feel good enough. I do feel like I've not achieved what I could have achieved. So yeah, I completely understand this. Not living up to a potential, even if it's just your own inner perceived potential. Yeah, you just disappoint yourself, or you feel like you've let other people down. So somehow you could have got better qualifications, which would have led to a better job and better pay. But in my instance, I haven't worked for a long time. So I feel like I've let my family down. I could have perhaps had a better life, more money, a bigger house, whatever, if I could have just done more. So, yeah. Are there any things that help? Early diagnosis is clearly going to help you. You're going to know that you're autistic, and therefore you will be able to ask for those accommodations that might support you. You can have a positive autistic identity, and you can just embrace being autistic from an early age. And I think that would really help. If you get acceptance from your family, from your peers, from professionals, all the people that you can just happily tell you're autistic, and then you can tell them what your struggles are, and then maybe you can get some help. You know, that would be nice. That would help you with your self-esteem, I'm sure. If you can connect with a neurodivergent community, if you can find other autistic people online that you can talk to, I'm not overly chatty with other people, so I do still struggle with that. I haven't felt, even though I've got on some Discord groups, I still don't feel like, almost like I don't fit in there, even though they're autistic, I'm autistic. Even if they're AuDHD like I am, so if they've got ADHD as well, I still just feel like I don't belong. I still got a feeling that I don't belong anywhere. Self-advocacy, which is kind of what I'm trying to do with my videos. So speaking up for yourself, you know, telling people what you need and what will help you. You've got a You've got to get to that point. So I'm trying to do that now. I'm trying to do that here. Therapy might help. Again, I don't like talking to people, but if you could go and see a therapist that was, you know, conversant in autism and ADHD, if you have ADHD too, then, you know, if they can treat you with respect and give you some strength-based approaches that will help you to appreciate yourself, then, you know, find a good therapist, and that could be the answers to everything. If anybody has any advice for any of us, please feel free to comment down below. I'm sure we would all really appreciate that. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.